What's going on, guys? Marco Rifleman coming at you guys with somewhat of a very controversial topic here. In this video, I'll be doing a comparison between two very popular semi-automatic pistols, and that is the Glock and the 1911. So first and foremost, before I continue, we're going to demonstrate the handguns are safe. There's nothing in the magazine well, nothing in the chamber. This gun's good to go. Same deal with the Glock. Nothing in the magazine well, nothing in the chamber. This gun's good to go as well. So pretty much I'll be going over some of the pros and cons of both, and at the end I'll be doing a conclusion of which one I would pick over the two. That is my opinion, by the way. Whatever one I end up telling you guys, at the end of the day, I hope that this video helps somebody that's looking to get their first handgun, if they're thinking about between these two. And yeah, but before I continue, if you like what you see on my channel, please like, comment, and subscribe. It will really help me a lot. And feel free to comment, whatever you would like. If there's anything in particular that you would like to see, give me ideas in there and I'll see what I come up with. So yeah. All right, moving on. So I think I will start with the 1911 for the simple reason that there's just a little bit more to cover on the 1911 than there is with the Glock. So yeah, let's get the show on the road. I think a lot of people, when they're looking to get a first handgun, they tend to lean over more towards the 1911 for many reasons. Number one, I think mostly because the historic value behind it. Obviously, it's been around for a long time. It's served in our military for many years, and they're just pretty guns. I mean, pretty much 1911s were the 1911s paved the way for a lot of modern semi-automatic pistols, right? A lot of manufacturers took the 1911 and they used it to kind of give them ideas on creating their own, their own version of a semi-automatic pistol. So yeah, there's that. But besides that, they are good guns. They definitely require more attention. It's not like a Toyota where you just get on and drive. It's more of a Cadillac, right? You gotta make sure it's lubricated, you gotta make sure it's cleaned, and they're a little bit more picky with ammunition depending on what you shoot through it. Generally, 1911s tend to work really well with full metal jackets because that's what they were designed around, full metal jacket round. But a lot of modern 1911s, they do work really well with hollow tips, like this one here in particular. This one's a Rock Island Armory 1911 A1. This is a officer size 1911, so it's a little bit smaller, but it works great. I've shot many rounds to this. I want to say close to 500 rounds. Rock Island Armory does recommend for you to shoot at least 500 rounds to break it in. I did have a little bit of issues here and there at the beginning, but I noticed that some of those issues were because of the stock magazine that it came with, and the slide stop here, the little nub inside, was a little bit oversized, so I kind of had to file it down just a tad bit. It probably would have done it by itself over time, but I figured, what, let me just do this now because it was causing the slide to lock to the back with the magazine still loaded. So yeah, they do require more attention to detail, so just keep that in mind. But usually once you get it dialed in, they're fine. I haven't had any major issues. After that, I did get better magazines. I got these Wilson Combat Mags here, and this gun has not failed me. It shoots pretty much everything I put through it. I believe I fired 30 Federal HSTs through this, so that's the ammunition that I carry in this gun. So definitely shoot the ammo that you're gonna carry with the gun, just so you make sure it works well. And yeah, generally it should be fine. But like I mentioned, they do require a little bit more of attention, so just keep that in mind. Another plus of a 1911 is the grip. In my opinion, It's a more natural grip. It fits better in my hand than a Glock. It's a little bit of a slimmer profile, so it's not as boxy. So it's definitely more comfortable, especially paired up with some really nice grips like these Wilson Combat grips here. And I think it's just a more natural aiming gun. I mean, you grab this thing, you pick it up, and when you bring it up to your eye level, it's just more natural, in my opinion, to point this guy than the Glock is. Generally because of the grip angle. I know with these 1911s, the angle is kind of at a grip, but again, it's not as boxy as a Glock, so it's a little bit easier to shoot. And yeah, a lot of people use 1911s, especially like in competitions, because out of the box they come with a better trigger, definitely, than Glocks do. And yeah, even cheaper ones like this one here. This one, the trigger on this guy is definitely better than the stock trigger on my Glock here. So yeah, you know, it's crazy, right? But 1911s are known to have a better trigger. So yeah, it's just something to think about. You could, you know, replace the trigger on 1911s. So can you on the Glock, but it's definitely easier on a Glock than a 1911. A 1911, you know, the beauty of these guns is that they were created in a time when pretty much if you wanted to modify your handgun, you'd have to take it to somebody, or if you know how to do it yourself, that would hand fit every part on it. Like if you wanted a different trigger, a different hammer, you know, different barrel, whatever, you know, they had to manually hand fit the part to the particular gun. So just know that if you get a 1911 and you want to switch things out, it's not going to be a drop-in. You know, a lot of the times you will have to do some hand fitment to it, or take it to a professional that knows how to do it. So yeah, keep that in mind. In my opinion, 1911s are more safer to carry because of the grip safety and the manual thumb safety here. Generally, you know, these were designed to be carried cocked and locked, meaning the hammer is back, it's around chambered, and the safety is up. So when you go to pull it out in a defensive situation, you press the grips, the thumb safety, you bring it up, and it's good to go, right? And yeah, that's why they're, in my opinion, a little bit safer than Glocks or any other handgun that doesn't have a manual safety or grip safety like these guys do. So a little safer. I mentioned the trigger, the weight. The weight's definitely going to be a downfall. It is a little bit heavier, so keep that in mind. To me, it's not really an issue, especially on a guy like this. It's not that heavy. To me, I actually prefer the weight on a 1911 because it absorbs the recoil a little better than say a polymer handgun. So it's not too bad. Like if you shoot a 10 mil out of a 1911 compared to shooting a 10 mil out of a Glock, you're definitely going to feel a little bit heavier recoiling in the Glock because it's lighter. So, you know, just keep that in mind. This one here is chambered in 45 ACP, but even with this little guy, the recoil isn't too bad. So yeah, I would say a downfall of a 1911, the biggest downfall for 1911 if you have one in 45 is definitely capacity. I live in California, so we're only limited to 10 rounds, so you know, it kind of sucks, I know, but anyways, you wouldn't be able to fit more rounds in this guy anyways unless you got a magazine that stuck out, or you know, if you had a full-size 1911 or a double stack 1911. They do make some double stack that you could carry 10 rounds, but other than that, in a single stack you wouldn't be able to do that, so you'd have to get a longer magazine. So yeah, capacity is definitely an issue. But you know, a lot of times in a defensive situation, usually it's 1 to 5 rounds or so, maybe 1 to 3 rounds that a lot of people use in a defensive situation. So you really don't, I'm all for having more, being able to have the ability to have more high capacity, or not even high capacity, standard capacity magazines. You know, you should be able to carry as many rounds as you want without nobody telling you what to do, right? But there's laws, and I, you know, follow the laws. I don't want to get in trouble, so yeah. Uh, Capacity is definitely going to be a downfall on these guys on the 1911s, but like I said, if you do a lot of training and you put the rounds down range and you actually do run drills and whatnot, you know, having a plush magazine on this guy, you know, this is a 7-rounder, will be more than enough for me. You know, just carry a spare mag maybe. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. So before I move on, I would like to touch a little bit on the sights. Because of the ergonomics of a 1911, even with these little GI sights here, you're still able to be pretty accurate with a 1911, even with these guys. With these sights here, I'm able to keyhole shots at 10, 15 yards even sometimes, you know. So they're not too bad because of the ergonomics, the trigger, you know, the grip angle. It is generally easier to be more accurate with the 1911 in my opinion. That's why I think a lot of people that do competitions, they use 1911s. So yeah. But yeah, pretty much, you know, they're gonna be safer, they're gonna have better triggers, they're gonna be a lot easier to be more accurate with, and yeah, you know, just keep that in mind. I think that pretty much covers it all with the 1911. Moving on to the Glock. Oh man, where do I even start with the Glock? The Glock's been around for a pretty decent amount of time. Yeah, I believe the first Glock came out in the late 80s. I'm not sure what year. I think it was 87 when they first came out with the Glock 17. Glocks have a pretty good track record. You know, they've also served in the military, not as long as 1911, obviously, but they have served in our military. I believe some units carry Glock 19s in there. I know recently with the contract for a new sidearm for the U.S. military, they didn't win, but I think a lot of it was due to the cost. Maybe it was cheaper to get 6 over Glocks. So yeah. But anyways, Glocks, they're just much more simpler. They're quicker. You know, definitely no manual safety on these guys. The only safety is the safe action safety built into them, pretty much. The only way this gun will fire is if you actually press the trigger. So if you don't want it to fire, don't put your finger on the trigger. Follow gun safety rules, you know. Don't aim at something you don't intend to destroy. You know, it's kind of a no-brainer. But yeah. But generally, Glocks are safe. You know, I know a lot of people are a little bit skeptical about carrying a round in the chamber on a Glock, but train with them, man. You know, if you don't feel comfortable carrying a round in the chamber, you know, I don't know. In my opinion, if you're gonna carry a handgun, you gotta have it ready to go, because you're not always gonna have that extra 3 seconds to load a round in the chamber, you know. But hey, if you train without having a round in the chamber, more power to you. I know some people do that, and that's perfectly fine. I'm just saying my opinion, you know. But definitely these guns are a little bit easier to shoot. Not easier to shoot, but quicker to use in the defensive situation. And pretty good track record, you know, especially Gen 2s, Gen 3s, Glocks. They're pretty, they work really well, really reliable, less parts in them, which is what makes them really simple. A lot easier to break down and clean than a 1911. So yeah, pretty much Glocks are like the Honda in the gun world. You know, a lot of aftermarket parts are made for them, and you could just drop parts right in. You know, a lot of the times you don't have to modify a whole lot. If you want a different trigger or different parts on them, you could just drop them in, you know. So that's the beauty of Glocks. You know, they're not like 1911s where you gotta hand fit parts into them. Some things you might have to, but not as much, you know. But yeah, I think one of the downfalls on the Glock is the grip angle. You know, it is a boxier grip, and it's just a more unnatural grip on a Glock. Like, you really have to get used to a Glock. If you're used to shooting other pistols and you want to switch over to a Glock, you're definitely gonna have to get used to the grip angle. You know, compared to like 1911, it's a little bit more natural. But once you get used to it, you know, it's like anything else. You know, you just train with it and you get better at it as you progress, you know. So yeah, just get out there and train. But yeah, I mean, Glocks are great, easier to use, and in my opinion, they're a little more reliable. Not as picky with ammunition as 1911s are. 1911s, like I said, require a little bit more break-in, a little bit more experimenting with different kind of loads, different ammunition brands and whatnot. So yeah, but with Glocks, they generally tend to work really well out of the box, and they don't require a whole lot of attention. You should take care of your Glocks. You should clean them. You should, keep them lubricated per, the owner's manual specifications. But other than that, if you get a little more leeway with Glocks than 1911, if it's dry and you haven't cleaned it a long time, then more than likely it might fail a lot quicker than a Glock will. So, something to keep in mind. But yeah, like I said, the aftermarket support is definitely there. Easier to get different sights, different parts for your Glock, customize them as you like, a lot easier than the 1911. I would say the downfall on Glocks is the grip. A lot of times, for new people, they don't really like how boxy a Glock feels. They don't like the fact it doesn't have manual safety. But yeah, just keep that in mind. Again, this video is mostly geared towards somebody that's kind of looking to get the first handgun and they're thinking about the Glock or the 1911. I know there's a lot of people out there that are more knowledgeable than I am, and I understand, but hopefully this kind of helps from average Joe's point of view, because I'm just the average person here. So I'm just kind of sharing my experience with the two firearms, and hopefully it helps somebody looking to get a first handgun or whatever, But I think you guys are pretty much can already tell which gun I prefer over the other, and to me it's a Glock. I'd rather have a little bit more higher capacity, more than 7-8 rounds. I'm in California, so I'm only allowed to have up to 10 rounds, but still I'll take 10 rounds any day over 7, 8, or however many you could put in your 1911. If you live in a free state, you obviously know that in a handgun with this frame here on a 40 Smith & Wesson with a plush mag, you can fit up to 13 rounds, I believe, 14. Well, maybe 13 in the mag, one chambered, and a 1911. If you have a 9mm, you could definitely fit more in a single stack. But if it's a double stack 1911, then definitely going to be able to fit a lot more. So yeah, I definitely picked the Glock. I prefer no manual safeties. I train with Glocks, been around them for a pretty decent amount of time, so I feel pretty confident with them. So a lot of times I'll throw a Glock on my waist before I throw a 1911 on my waist. Every now and then I do like to carry my 1911, just switch it up. But generally speaking, if I can only pick one gun over both, the Glock definitely takes it. So yeah, there it is. Well, hopefully this video helps you guys, like I mentioned, and if you like what you see, please comment, like, and subscribe. Comment ideas of what you would like to see in the future on my channel, and I see what I come up with. But anyways, there it is. Hopefully you guys like this video. Glock versus 1911. Some of the pros and cons of both now. If you're looking to get one, really get what works better for you. Don't listen to people that have preference one over the other. Just kind of like see what the pros and cons are with both, and whatever works for you, more power to you. Get whatever you'd like to get, But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it.